I see we have a few people, it's the harvest time, so a lot of our regulars have had to bow out today or wanted to, and something came up. But I see Jason Harrison is on, so that's good because he's one of our presenters. I see Amy Nelms, that's great. I'm not sure about Sarah Castro, but we have Aaron, so that's good. So anyway, um, I'd like to welcome you all. This is Ogallala Commons local food producers monthly call. We started it as part of a Zoom summit we were going to do in Holly, Colorado that we weren't able to do because of COVID, but it turned into a nice thing where we did 6 of these calls and reached a lot of food producers in Southeast Colorado as part of our planning grant with Colorado Health Foundation to rebuild the Ark Valley Food Shed. So very interested in Southwest Kansas too, because that's the Ark Valley as well, just further down the line. And that's part of the overall thing that Ogallala Commons has been working on for 5 years, rebuilding local food systems. So that work is really progressing in Southeast Colorado. And when we talk about getting access to local food, one of the things that some of the producers mentioned, like Colin up there in the corner, is that they're involved in senior food boxes or food bundles. So we thought it was really important to have a call where we talked about these programs that local producers could access as another market option. Also programs that would help more people in our populations, in our communities to access fresh, locally nutrient-dense food. So I was guided to Jason Harrison at Hunger Free Colorado, and he agreed to give us some overview, as well as Amy Nelms at Live Well, Colorado. So you all are leading the charge, but we have plenty of people to then take up discussion and Q&A with you all. So Jason, why don't we start with you? And I don't know if you have anything, if you'd introduce yourself, and do you have any slides today or anything like that?
I do. I listened to you, Darryl.
Okay. All right. Well, if you need help sharing those, Chelsea Hilty would assist you on that. She's up there and can.
It looks like I have permission, so I think we should be good to go.
Okay.
But yeah, so my name is Jason Harrison. I'm originally from Aurora, so I'm up here in the Front Range. I work for Hunger Free Colorado as the Colorado Food Pantry Network Manager. It is a network of over 100 food pantries throughout the state. We focus a lot mostly on advocacy, and now more and more looking at how do we support pantries in the emergency food system, connecting with the actual food system. So working with local producers, ranchers, veggie, fruit, no real preference, but just working with producers throughout the state and getting their products into the emergency food system. So I'm going to talk about a couple different options that we can work on how to get producers' products into the emergency food system. And then I'm going to kick it over to Amy and talk a little bit more about the SNAP side of things, Double Up Food Bucks, and the great work that they do over at Live Well. So I will share my screen. By any means, feel free to stop me at any point if there are any questions. All right. So one of the main programs I'm going to talk about, there we go, is just our Farm to Food Pantry initiative. And so how are we getting local food into the emergency food system? And I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that we have found that works really well for local producers. So here in the Front Range, local food is a really interesting question. We often talk about what does it mean? What does our food shed look like? Colorado obviously having some very specific geographic and biological kind of limitations for what types of food we can grow and when we can grow it, things that I'm preaching to the choir about now. So when we talk about local food and where our food comes from, the one component we often forget to talk about in that conversation is who actually has access to it. A lot of direct-to-consumer markets tend to price out a lot of individuals, particularly those individuals who have to go to a food pantry or rely on government programs. So in the state of Colorado, prior to COVID, we were experiencing about 1 in 11 Coloradans struggling with hunger. We recently at Hunger Free did a survey across the state and found that that number is up to about 37%. So over 1 in 3 people are really struggling to afford food. When you combine that with the fact that there are over 22,000 farming operations in the state out of the roughly 38,000 total, that only account for 1% of agricultural sales, we really saw a unique opportunity to support a lot of local diversified farmers and producers, while at the same time building the infrastructure in place and getting greater access to local food in the emergency food system. And so one of the things that we've done is we have surveyed food pantry clients throughout the states to really figure out what are their needs, what are their wants when they go to a food pantry. And over 83% of those food pantry goers identified that what they're really looking for in their experience with the emergency food system is access to things like proteins, dairies, and fresh fruits and vegetables. And so we wanted to create a system that really allowed for us to take what pantry clients need while supporting the local economies that they exist in. And so that challenge has really led us to thinking creatively about what does it mean to support our local economies? What does it mean to create circular economies, to create more opportunities for our emergency food system to better support its own community? And so we've come up with 3 really big solutions. The first is the state-sponsored program known as the Food Pantry Assistance Grant. So this is the 3rd year of the Food Pantry Assistance Grant, where the Colorado legislature has allocated funding specifically to food pantries with the earmark that what they do is they spend that money on purchasing from local producers. So this year we had $500,000 allocated to food pantries. We have 125 food pantries throughout the state. 6 actually were awarded in the Arkansas Valley, from Rocky Ford all the way to Lamar. So there's this funding has been available. There's other funding streams through the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, through the Governor's Fund, that have also given out funding, but this one in particular is earmarked so that those pantries have to purchase from local farmers and ranchers. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The other are these expanded partnerships with the statewide food banks. So there are 5 food banks in the state of Colorado, which comprise of Feeding Colorado. And most recently, they've hired somebody to work on purchasing from local producers. So for instance, in the southeast region of the state, CSA Share is the food bank that is responsible for the distribution of food in that area. They spend a little over $1 million every year on purchasing food. And we would much rather they spend that $1 million purchasing directly from producers rather than that $1 million purchasing from some of their bigger retail partners. And so through this new hired position at Feeding Colorado, we want to continue to build on those expanded partnerships. And then the last is an example of what pantries can do. We have seen some pantries who dedicate a lot of their fundraising specifically to purchasing from local producers. So we have a pantry network on the Western Slope where their fundraising efforts are all geared towards how do we get money in just so we can buy local product. And so those are 3 really key efforts that I think we can work to better expand local food within the emergency food system. So this is our first year in that statewide government program, the Colorado Food Pantry Assistance Grant. We had about $450,000 that year. It went to 94 food pantries, and they worked with over 132 producers. And so that's roughly $500,000 that went right back into our communities that were supporting local economies and local producers, and then ultimately supporting the pantries and the pantry clients themselves. But what was really unique about this program and what we have found is it's created a lot of novel experiences for both producers and for pantries. Pantries are an incredible market for producers because they're a lot more flexible than a traditional retail market like a restaurant or other entities, because they're willing to take seconds as an actual, like it's an actual market channel for your seconds products. They're a lot more flexible if there's like a severe weather event, pests or drought or anything that might impact one of your crops. If you have another crop available, they're almost always willing to accept that second or third crop, even though they might have ordered, let's say, eggplant. But if all you have are wheat products or whatever it may be, They're much more flexible about substituting those orders. They've also created really unique like distribution methods, partnerships around storage. A lot of producers sometimes have extra storage capacity where pantries don't. And so it's created like an off-season revenue stream for producers to like kind of rent out their storage. We've seen pantries that have donated their food waste to like hog producers to feed their hogs. It's just been a really great example of really innovative collaboration. And then probably the biggest benefit is pantries are able to kind of give some capital up front, which doesn't typically happen. And so producers are able to kind of stretch that out throughout the entire growing season or even during the off season. These are just a bunch of folks that we've worked with, producers and pantry leaders throughout the state on this program. And then from the words of producers themselves, I think it's what we have found really to be the most exciting aspect of this is producers feel like the work that they do, the reason why they went into farming in the first place, to really grow and feed their communities, this allows them to do that. And so it's about, you know, providing that fair wage, but also at the same time, really living up to that mission of why folks are growing food in the first place, because they want to support their own communities. So that's all I got. I will say we have like a little story map. If folks are interested, I can happily drop that into the chat. And then we also have a producer form. So if folks in your region want to get into our database for producers and for of producers for pantries, I can also share that in the chat as well.
That's really good information. Jason, things are really developed in Colorado. I mean, that you have that much outreach to local producers, connecting them to their pantries. It seems different than in Texas for sure. I don't know about Kansas. What do you all folks on this call from Kansas, do you see something similar in your state?
Well, with the thing that comes to mind is when, you know, COVID started, there was a gentleman that started a Shop Kansas Facebook group that just blew up. You know, people were having problems finding things in the grocery store, prices were going up. And so he started this Facebook group for, you know, producers across the state to be able to put in, you know, what they had, and then people who were interested in it to find what they needed or wanted. And so I think there's several 100,000 that are on that Facebook group now. The problem has been with some of like the practices. I know several of the K-State Research and Extension, like, you know, that deal with the safe food have been trying to help, you know, make sure people know like proper canning techniques and, you know, just food preservation along with it. And so that's something that I think of locally. Aaron and Bridget, you know, might have some other things they think of. I know for the rest of the state really has, you know, like Aaron was talking about, double up food bucks and a lot of big SNAP influence. Southwest Kansas is a little different, and it's kind of, we're a little bit behind in that.
Anybody
Hopefully
else?
not for too long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Any follow-up questions about Jason's slides or any of that information?
Jason, what are your like numbers with, you talked about your area. How many food pantries does that involve, and how many producers do you have numbers on?
So the first year in regards to the grant specifically that I was talking about. Yeah. So in that first year, we had 94 pantries receive funding. This year we have 125 pantries receive funding. And then in that first year, we had over 132 producer partnerships. And then this year we expect to even exceed that. So we're really excited about just that continual growth.
Jason, I have a question. So as far as Colorado demographics go, do you have one like regional food bank that serves the whole state? Or so in Kansas, we have like Harvester serves the northeastern corner, and then the Kansas City area, and then the Kansas Food Bank located in Wichita serves the rest of the state. which then can provide some access challenges in getting everything, to all of the corners of the state.
Yeah, so similarly, we have a lot of access challenges when it comes to our food banks. We have 5 food banks in the state. 3 of them are pretty much county specific in our northern part of the state, and then 2 of them cover the majority of the state. So we have Care and Share, which covers the whole southeastern half. If you were to draw a line straight through Colorado in the middle, Care and Share would be on the bottom, and then Food Bank of the Rockies covers the northern portion and all of Wyoming as well. Our biggest challenge though, when it comes to that is, we have all of our mountain ranges. And so because of that, it makes a lot of access to, a lot of our western slope a little bit more challenging.
Thank you.
Of course.
Jason, where is Care and Share located?
Yeah, so they're located in Colorado Springs, and that's also where their only current distribution site is. They're looking at expanding into the San Luis Valley and having one in Alamosa as well.
Well, that seems like a lot of funding going to buy from producers. How could you compare that? Could you compare that to like 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, yeah, so three or 4 years ago, and Amy, you can probably talk to this as well, is at least from an emergency foods perspective and from a pantry level, we didn't have any funding going directly, unless it was like specific and contextual to like an individual pantry. As far as like a statewide program, there was nothing at that time.
This far along, are you pleased with the results?
Yeah, I mean, obviously like COVID really disrupted a lot of things for a lot of us. And, we were advocating this year for $1 million for this program. And we're hoping to have it codified so that it would be like a renewable of 5-year, $1 million every year. Unfortunately, because of the economic impact that it had on state budgets throughout the entire nation, that wasn't the case for us. And so we had to kind of settle on a 1-year shot from the Federal CARES Act to provide funding for this. And then next year we're going back in and fighting for more funding again. So we're hopeful. There's a lot of support in the state. We have great partnerships with folks like LiveWell to really advocate for these programs. And so we're really excited about the potential of it.
So that funding is from the CARES Act?
For this year, it had to be, yes.
Yeah, okay. Colin, as our producer on the call, the one who could make it, you have any questions for Jason? Is any of this striking a chord for you?
Yeah, it is. I've only been in contact with one food pantry up in Lamar, Sparrow Ministries.
Yeah.
They've been buying some meat from Schroeder Ag down here, and some vegetables as well. But they're doing a lot of good work up there. And we've kind of been having a ongoing conversation about plans for next year and helping them get more fresh produce in their facilities. So that's good to hear. This is all new information to me, so yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, Veronica and Joel are just really incredible individuals. So it's excited that you're already connected with them. And they're closely connected with a lot of pantries, from small town up in Rocky Ford and others throughout that area. So I definitely know that they have those connections to continue to further that work for you guys.
Yeah.
As a segue to Amy, Colin, could you just say what you all are doing with Sixtown and Schroeder Ag as far as local food?
Yeah. So me and a couple of my friends and my wife started Sixtown Farms this last year, and we've just been selling veggies that we've been growing out of our greenhouses, and then we've been buying other vegetables from Rocky Ford and traveling to Lamar and Walsh farmers markets, and just kind of providing that farmers market, I guess, to this area, because nobody's really doing that down here. And then for Schroeder Ag, they've been selling bundles of meat for people, and they've got a 1.5 acre garden that I've been taking care of, and we're filling 60 boxes a week for senior citizens in the area. And that's one to two servings for a week for people, so about $35 boxes, and that's includes veggies, eggs, and meat that we're all producing from the farm.
That's great. Are those boxes just distributed in Baca County or also in Prowers?
I think it's just Baca County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, unless people have any more questions for Jason, we can certainly ask later. But why don't we pivot over to Amy from Libbo, Colorado. And Amy, if you just introduce yourself and then tell us what you can about Double Up Food Bucks, SNAP program, older adult CSA box program, all those things.
Great. Hi everyone, I'm Amy and I'm the Double Up Food Bucks program manager. I can though speak to both the WIC and the senior boxes as well for CSAs. Just a quick, I know some of you aren't on video, but those who are, how many of you have heard of Double Up Food Bucks? It sounds like there's some familiarity with it. Okay, cool. So I am gonna go over just like high level because it is a little different state to state, but I'll try not to spend too much time on like what is Double Up. Since it seems like a lot of you already know. Oh, I don't want screen two. Okay. Well, is everyone seeing a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So, and hopefully, hold on. Sorry, I always do this thing where I have a double screen and then it really messes me up when I'm trying to present. Let's do this. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see the PowerPoint. Great. Okay, so high level, what is Double Up Food Bucks? And so Double Up Food Bucks is a SNAP incentive program. Our funding limits us pretty heavily to really only work with the SNAP program, otherwise known as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly called food stamps. So we know in Colorado, there's a lot of names, EBT, SNAP, food stamps, any of those, we're all talking about the same thing. We try to keep it pretty simple in Colorado though. So we have a model where people just bring their EBT card to the location. So there's no previous sign up necessary. They buy SNAP eligible food, which is every food that is not hot and ready. And so we have, you know, direct farms where the SNAP eligible food is produce. We have situations like what was being talked about with a meat farmer where someone can buy, say, like $10 of meat and then they earn $10 for produce. And then we're even working in some kind of in the metro area corner stores. And to be honest, people might buy chips and then earn produce. And that's just more produce that they maybe weren't eating before. So we keep it pretty broad for that reason. So when people buy SNAP eligible foods, they get free fruits and vegetables. And then those free fruits and vegetables are compensated through a grant that Livewell has with the United States Department of Agriculture. So Double Up Food Bucks is a program that is around the states nationally. So there's sort of a national model. You can see on here, all of these blue states are Double Up Food Bucks states, or at least were last year. We all talk to each other, we all learn from each other, but we do have some state-by-state differences just in our own missions and how we manage the program. And then here, the program is managed by Livewell, Colorado. So our vision is that Coloradans are allowed to live in, or are able to live in environments with equitable access to nourishing food. This is an old slide, so just ignore the physical activity. I've been doing this presentation for a while. I just looked at that and was like, that's pretty old. But ideally, we just want everyone to have the choice to eat the food that makes them feel good. And that's, you know, baseline what we do. So we try to remove barriers that disproportionately affect low-income communities. So in the case of Double Up Food Bucks, that's a price barrier. And then also, I think in the case of farmers, that's a barrier to have a connection to the folks using the SNAP program, and sort of an ability to navigate how do you get SNAP authorized, and then how do you offer a program like Double Up Food Bucks so that not only is price not a barrier, but just that system that can be complicated is not a barrier for farmers. So right now we have over 100 locations. This map is also a little old, but you can see in the southeast corner, right now we're actually only in Otero and Prowers County. And so we were in Baca and Los Animas for a while, but farmers markets or farms sometimes close, or, you know, there's a lot of turnover, especially for farmers markets. So we would love more Southeast Colorado partners. And then I try to keep things very broad as far as the types of locations we work with. So that is something that's fairly unique for the Colorado program. So we work with farmers markets. So that's kind of where the base of Double Up Food Bucks started, right? So nationally, this program was really designed for the farmers market space. That being said, we work with what I call like neighborhood grocery. It's not your big supermarket, but it's like a neighborhood owned independent grocery. We work with what's, you know, farm stands, single vendor, someone sets up in front of their farm. We have a way that food boxes or CSA shares can offer this program. And then direct market farms, which those last three categories is where probably a lot of you fall. But if you are selling in a farmer's market that's not accepting Double Up, I'm happy to talk about that as well. And then we do have, we've had a partnership with a grocer called Lowe's Mercado that will be ending in December. But we are talking to larger grocers because in some communities, that's just the only thing that I think will work, but not yet in your corner of the state. So I'm not going to show the how it works videos just for time, but what I will tell you is if you want a visual sort of explanation of Double Up Food Bucks, we have these really cute videos that were made that show, you know, how does it work at the farmer's market? How does it work at the CSA? What I will tell you is it's essentially the same. Someone buys the SNAP and they earn produce, but it feels different at a farmer's market, you know, where there's a bunch of different vendors versus CSA where you're going to pick up a box. And so we've made these videos so maybe a customer who's not familiar with a direct shopping on a farm or not familiar with the CSA model can go on and just sort of get a feel for what it's going to look like. We hear in a lot of interviews we do with SNAP recipients that, and this varies throughout the state, I think it's sometimes different in rural communities, but a lot of folks say, I want to try Double Up Food Bucks, but it sounds too good to be true. And I also don't really understand, like, do I just go to the farm? Like, what does that look like? And so we're really just trying to show people that it is pretty easy, that it's not a scam, it is real. They can get more produce and the farmers are great, and just really demonstrate that it's a pretty simple program. Another thing I get, and probably less from you guys in the farm community, people ask me a lot, why is Double Up Food Bucks only fruits and vegetables? And the biggest thing here is they're the most expensive part of the shopping cart for a lot of reasons. I have a lot of even like human services directors who say, well, you know, I went and bought broccoli and it was, you know, it was cheaper than the pound of meat I bought. Yes, per item, oftentimes fruits and vegetables don't add up that fast. But when you think about shopping on a budget, or if any of you do or any of you have, I mean, I can personally attest to, it's like a constant math game in your head, right? It's like you're thinking, how long will this last? What's the shelf life? Will my family or my kids like this? Because if you take the risk and you buy the broccoli and you have kids and they push it away, then what are you going to feed them, you know? And if you don't have, you know, the opportunity to kind of introduce foods into either your diet or your family's diet and take risk when grocery shopping to eat fruits and vegetables, it can add up. And so even though it's not always the most expensive per item, it's not, you can't just eat fruits and vegetables, you know, you've got to integrate other things, you have to feel full. So we're just trying to kind of take the stress out of that off families' plates and say, you know, we've got the fruit and vegetable budget covered. If you want to buy double fruits and vegetables with Double Up, which lots of people do, that's awesome. We love it. If you are like, wow, I wasn't able to afford them before, and that's how I'm adding them in, that's great. There's also a perception that we've heard pretty consistently through the state that high quality produce isn't for everyone. And so we also try to do a lot of work with farmers and farmers markets on, you know, how do we make these spaces accessible, welcoming, open to everybody? And what I found is, especially in the farm community, you guys are already there, and it's sort of just connecting community to you, and specifically like the SNAP community to you. And so I think just making sure that everybody understands that really high quality fruits and vegetables, it's not only a privilege that everyone should have. In my mind, it's a right that everybody should have. And so that's part of our mission as well. And then we really focus on local, and part of that is bipartisan support. It supports local farms. And I also, for the same reasons, think everyone should have access to their local food system. So sorry, this is a human services PowerPoint that I am recycling for this because I do not have time to make social slides. So there are ways that you can, you know, advertise and all of that. We can go over that. My email's here. And I can put that in the chat, but I do want to show you, if you're wondering, how the heck do I get involved in Double Up? Oh, let's see if it'll let me exit. We have this little one pager. I know it's not beautiful. I made it, and I'm not a graphic designer, but it sort of tells you the steps, right, to get involved. So the first thing is, if you're not accepting SNAP, you have to apply for that first. And as flattering as it is that people think I run the SNAP program, I don't run the SNAP program on either end, you know? And so what I tell people is you want to go to the FNS Food Nutrition Service website and put in an application. Most of you, if you're a farmer's market, they have a farmer's market portal. If you're a direct farm, they have a way to do it as a direct farm. What I will say with COVID is I think, you know, as unfortunate as this is for a whole bunch of reasons, the opportunity to accept SNAP is more important than ever. I've found that in a lot of counties, and especially in Southeast Colorado, where we do have a program gap, we're hearing from families on a weekly basis at least saying like, I just got SNAP and I heard that there's this Double Up Food Bucks program and I don't know why it's not in my backyard. And so I think it's always, you know, even if it's just one farm, it's really meaningful to people to have that access. Also, there's just some rules that have been changed, which is great because, you know, because of COVID. And so some of those are, it used to be very hard to move your SNAP machine around, right? And so if you're a direct farm and you're like, well, I don't know if it makes sense for me to sell on my farm, but I'd like to set up at the local school, the human services office, somewhere else that, you know, a community center, a park. They've made it so you no longer have to have different machines for EBT to do that. So there's just sort of an opportunity to, I think, to not only increase your customer base by becoming SNAP authorized, but also to really increase accessibility. The other thing, there's some things on here about getting an EIN. If you don't have one, I can always talk about that. The next step is you have to get an EBT machine. I also don't have a stock of those, but there's some advice here on where to start. It does provide a limited amount of EBT machines. It's a little squirrely because in their last contract, which we're working to change, they have a limited wired equipment. So for some reason, you can plug into a phone line on your farm and, you know, where the SNAP machine needs to be. You are completely able to get a free machine, but they also have quite a few wireless equipment. So after you get SNAP authorized, you contact their vendor, and I will send this one pager to you, Daryl, as well. And then you come to us for Double Up Food Bucks, and we open a really simple SurveyMonkey application in January. I usually close it around March 1st. And then we do a program onboarding that just kind of talks about, you know, how do you track your sales to make sure you get reimbursed by LiveWell, and then just some tips and tricks of, you know, having a, you know, how do you advertise, market, who should you connect to in your community. A lot of you are already doing a wonderful job of all of that, but we just go over it and try to connect you to other farmers to have some like peer-to-peer kind of networking. So I'm going to pause on the Double Up Food Bucks front, and then I'm happy to talk about WIC and our senior share program as well. So any questions about Double Up Food Bucks?
Aaron, is there anything in there that you want to ask about from your perspective of Double Up Food Bucks in Kansas?
No, I think it all kind of nicely coincides with what we're doing. I will also add, I guess, Amy, you might know about this. I've encouraged farmers markets to get involved with MarketLink as an option for operating their EBT machine, as it's a grant program. They can get the service for free, and then it can operate on a cell phone for $19.95 a month after that. Some of the challenges we see in Western Kansas is data service or you know, Wi-Fi service in some of those areas. So that, I think that's been our one of the biggest challenges for folks is being able to use their EBT machine and have the service to operate.
Yeah, I will say that MarketLink is great, but you do need data service or internet. So that's kind of nice with the CDHS machines. We call them like the bricks. They are like the old school point of sale device, but they tend to work all over because I'm not an EBT machine designer, but I think they're
Yeah.
connected more to like a satellite service. And so we've had them work in
Yeah.
places like Colburn, Springfield, like things like that.
Yeah.
And so if you struggle
And I
with
didn't know-
wireless, oh, go ahead. I don't know if Kansas has
Well,
that program.
I was just gonna say, I didn't know there was a program where they could apply to get it for free. I don't know if Kansas has one, but I'll look into it. That's helpful information.
Yeah, and maybe I can't remember if I know the Kansas Double Up Food Bucks program manager at this point, but at any time you can connect us and I can connect them to our human services department. They can talk about how they set that up because it's been going for a few years. It's just part of our contract with our state EBT provider. And it's a really good option for people. So yeah, cool. Any other questions, comments, jubilations, angry outbursts?
It sounds really accessible, Amy. Like so many good things in Colorado. I see that Liza Marone is on the call. I think she's on her phone. But Liza, do you have any questions or points about Double Up Food Bucks from the San Luis Valley experience? Okay, well, she's muted, so maybe she can't talk to us right now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I am driving. This is, it's a little bit, I'm trying to be safe. Anyway, the Double Up Food Bucks, it has been really impactful here in the San Luis Valley. We have 2 farmers markets that have been using it for several years, and we have a little store in Saguache, in my hometown, that also has been using it for several years. And so it's, the impact is small but strong in those 3 places. And we just really want to work on expanding the number of grocers and markets that can access Double Up Food Bucks. And even the Valley Roots Food Hub, we tried SNAP for a while, but the whole Valley Roots Food Hub is an online system and SNAP is an in-person system. And Double Up Food Bucks works really well with like CSA boxes and that kind of thing. They have a nice way to make that work with SNAP and Double Up Food Bucks. But with the COVID new rules that you can do SNAP online, that's a game changer for this. So we're really excited, and we're reapplying for SNAP for the Food Hub because of that.
Hey, Liza, we should connect on that. I will, just so that information is correct. So the SNAP Online thing, there's a huge national push to expand that to places like the Food Hub. And I'm hoping in the next couple of months we see that come to fruition. Right now, it's only Walmart and Amazon that have been fully approved. And so in some ways that's good, because we want, SNAP Online has just been this sort of lingering, like, oh, we don't need it. Well, now we kind of really need it, as an accessibility thing. And so there is, through the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, we're working with them really heavily to start including some SNAP Online, direct farm, Food Hub opportunities. But I don't know if you'll see that yet, Liza. Still reapply though. When it happens, it'll happen fast. And to be honest, back in March, I was telling people it's only Amazon in 2 states. We're not going to see it anytime soon. And I was like way wrong, because now it's Amazon and Walmart here too. So take all of that with a grain of salt. FNS is surprisingly moving quick, which is great.
I'd love to be connected to that effort with the National Sustainable Ag Coalition.
Yeah, definitely. Just email me, Liza, so I don't forget.
Okay.
Before we take any more questions or comments, I see that maybe Sarah Castro might be on this call. I see an 806. Is that you, Sarah? Or is that might be someone else? Anyway. All right. Well, that would have been a chance to hear about Double Up in the Panhandle and South Plains of Texas. But we'll just go on to who else has. I know you have a little bit more to cover, Amy. So why don't you? Would you like to cover that?
Yeah, I'll just cover high level. So you're probably in our stream with the older adult boxes, Colin, but we've done for the past couple of years, we've sort of piloted a program where we work with county WIC offices and county area agencies on aging to select families who they think would be willing to take on a CSA share for the season. And we've had some funding that's allowed us just to prepay farmers for that share. That being said, we're fundraising to, keep those funds. I think similar to what Jason said around the 1 million ask, like we ran into the same thing. We're going to go back to the state, say, hey, this has been wildly successful. We are very grateful. We've been able to try it for a couple of years. Please increase our funding so we can continue it. But because of COVID and the budget cuts, we weren't able to do that this year. We will probably do it next year. And then we're fundraising more locally through foundations. We can work with very regional foundations to offer that, because we do know the big thing CSAs run into with Double Up Food Bucks is you can't prepay with SNAP for a CSA share for like the whole season. You can buy, 14 days in advance is the limit. And so, you have people drop out or not be able to pick up their box, and the WIC CSA share just made it so easy, or the older adult CSA share, because it was prepaid. So we are working to keep that going. And it was a small amount of families who got it, but I think it was really, really impactful. And so hopefully we can expand as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think it's been pretty successful this year. I think people are liking, what they're getting and stuff. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested in looking into that some more, for sure.
Cool. Any other questions for me? I'll pass it on.
I don't have any questions right now, sorry.
Okay. No, I just mean broadly.
Oh.
But thank you, Colin. And we will reach out if we are looking for like farmer advocacy around those boxes. Mm-hmm.
Amy, has this this WIC CSA is potentially something available in any county in Colorado?
I mean, I want to be transparent right now, because we weren't able to increase the state budget or the state budget allocation to it. I don't know what it's going to look like in 2021. I just don't. I know our team is really fundraising hard though. And so the way it looks is it is available to any county, but your county public health office or your local area agency on aging has to request the funding. And we have some letters that we can make sure that we connect you to, Daryl, at the next sort of round of what this looks like, so you can send it to your network. But farmers can reach out to their county human service, or not human services, sorry, county public health office and say, hey, please apply for this because our farm wants to offer it. And then the local agency selects the families and gives the funding to the farms. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Colin, have you guys looked at Double Up Food Bucks? Had you heard of it before?
I have not heard of it before, and we haven't looked into it. I will now, for sure. I know Mitzi Jett was doing, he was working with this last year, I think, maybe even, but yeah.
Yeah, and one exciting difference, I know Mitzi had some ups and downs, but one exciting thing that's been able to happen is we've finally gotten human services statewide to send something in the mail about Double Up Food Bucks to every SNAP recipient within like a certain driving distance of sites. And so we've seen a huge uptick in the last year or so, being able to have those direct mailers, especially in rural communities where, we've done billboards in the past, but like I went down to the valley and a very large tree was in front of the billboard that the metro area, billboard place picked out. We've just had those issues. So I think the direct mailer from the human service office, it sort of validates that this is real, and it goes directly to the families who need it. So.
Yeah, I would love to say something about that. Can you hear me?
Liza? Yeah.
So we, for the first time, got to be part of that program. We have 30 WIC families and 33 senior citizens. And the WIC serves all 6 counties of the San Luis Valley. And so, and then our Cooking Matters team, because they're kind of offline right now because of COVID, they jumped in and they've been putting in recipes and hand delivering to every person. And so taking it right to their front door instead of them having to come to the pickup point. having conversations, and it's the most beautiful thing because we're getting this amazing food out to people who've never had access to it before. And so it's a really special, it's really special. And the way the area agency on the aging is doing it is that, you know, there's 13 weeks of boxes. And so each week they're giving the box to a different set of seniors because they have so many. So they're getting 33, but you know, they're touching 33 senior families each week. And so it's a little different than, you know, what WIC is doing, where the family is getting 13 weeks of boxes. But anyway, it's a wonderful program, and I'm glad to testify to Congress that we need to keep it going.
I love it, Liza. Thank you.
Amy, are there folks in the farm stands along Highway 50, you know, like in Otero, Prowers County, using double up food bucks?
Yeah, well, I honestly don't remember if they're off Highway 50. I will say we've been working with Hannigan Farms for about 3-4 years now, and they do really, really well with double up food bucks, even on their direct farm site. So if anyone's curious, I can always connect you with Kim or Eric, and they can kind of talk about their experience with double up.
Yeah, we've had him on some calls. He just wasn't able to be on today. And Mitzi regrets not being able to be on today because I know she's worked on this. So good. Other questions or any perspectives or questions from our folks in Kansas, Southwest Kansas, all over Kansas?
Daryl, how often, you said y'all do this monthly, is that correct?
Yes, yes. We started, you know, to do the summit, and so we've had some Southwest Kansas folks on. We've had McKinney from Chelsea. I can't remember her first name. Anyway, Letty. We've had Letty McKinney on. She's selling meat directly, and she has meat in a couple of grocery stores. Yeah, so we're moving to monthly, and just local food producers call to get useful information to whoever, and so that we're extending it to all the food sheds that we're trying to work in. So that would include Texas Panhandle, South Plains, Southeast Colorado, Greater Colorado, and Southwest Kansas, and so on.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please ask your question or your comment.
Well, we just last October, as an organization, we looked at 3 areas that we needed to focus on for Kansas. Local foods was definitely one of them. Agricultural stress was another one, and then succession planning. And so we have a transdisciplinary team for each one of those 3 groups. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I just was invited here, so I don't want to like invite someone else, you know, without permission. But some of our local team, local foods transdisciplinary team, I think it might be good for them to be on this if I could extend that conversation or that invitation to them.
Yeah, good. I'll check in with you on email about that. Okay. That's a good suggestion. And this gives me a little segue to say that we do want to continue these on a variety of topics. Probably won't do it the month of December because you know, we're hoping that our project with rebuilding Ark Valley Food Shed goes on. We'll know next week. So, but we're going to go on anyway. So our next 2 calls will be a general topic in October and November. And we're going to move to the 2nd Wednesday instead of the 1st Wednesday. The 2nd Wednesday of October and November. But this idea of how do you engage your community about accessing local food? What are strategies? What are we doing, you know, digitally? So I'm going to put this into an email, of course, to all of you, and but that's what our next 2 calls will be about. I don't know the presenters yet, but I'm sure we'll have some, because this is you know, we'll just see what would be really helpful stuff to share. Like today, this was really great, Jason, what you put up, the slides, and Amy, please do share those links to those 2 videos with me so we can distribute that to all the people who are on this call, which are the people here, and we probably have 30 total, and looks like we're going to be growing. So that's really good information. Anybody have other concerns, questions, or comments? Okay, we normally have more producers, and I think we will next time. Our last call was on local and regional meat processing and marketing, and that was a good, lively call. So the information was good. We record all these, and they're all at a link that I'll put in the email to you all. The ones we've done since May, so they're all recorded. There's PowerPoints in there and so on. So we'll just keep building that out, making it available, and yeah, look to continue to help local food producers and build better access to fresh, nutrient-dense food in our communities.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, good to have all of you on today. Thanks, Amy. Great job. Jason,
Yeah,
really good
thanks
stuff.
for the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah,
to talk
appreciate
about
it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jason, can you share that PowerPoint with us?
Absolutely.
Just send it to me, and then Chelsea will get all this on the link. Okay, great. Well, we'll see you all
Thanks,
the next time. Yeah, October 7th, 8 a.m. Mountain, 9 a.m. Central.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Take care.
Have a good day.